Howdy folks, how's it going? Time for a new video because it's been a while. It's been a while. I've been with my kid this weekend doing a lot of daddy stuff because it's a birthday, so happy birthday, darling. But aside from that, I am back at it, back in the office, back doing a bit of work. So, we have just had a huge reveal, and that reveal is squats. Indeed, squats are returning to the Warhammer 40,000 universe in a new form. I think it's the League of the Leagues of Ontar or the Leagues of Onton, whatever they're called. Fantastic news for me. I think this is a massive step in the right direction for getting some more factions and people involved in Warhammer 40,000. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Well done, GW, for finally putting their ear to the ground and seeing the groundswell that is there to buy new models that have pretty cool features. So there we go. But that did give me an idea. And when I look through my mailbag, I have noticed a lot of people who've been wanting a bit more positive content on Games Workshop, which to me is completely fine. Absolutely fine, and I think it absolutely works reasonably well as a video. The thing is, with Games Workshop, what you need to understand is that not all things in Games Workshop are created equally in terms of your opinion. So, you're very rarely going to get a video about Games Workshop that is completely all white or all black, or all good or all bad. And so, this will be one of those videos where I'm going to discuss if I think Games Workshop are finally listening to the hobbyists, and if they are, how are they doing it and how are they going to profit by it? And are they doing it in the right way? Essentially, what I'm going to try and get down to. So I've written a short essay of 7 points that I'm going to go through as I talk through all different points. So the first point I wanted to make, with the new squats reveal, it does appear that they are listening to the hobbyists, right? And the Men of Iron could also be released alongside them, which is a huge thing. Because the Men of Iron in Warhammer 40,000 were essentially, if you like Mass Effect, the Geth, they're very similar to that. They are AI constructs that turn against humanity in the dark age of technology. And so we have this race of super machines, essentially, who could be born again and rise. And kind of sounds like the Necrons when you think about it. But again, more factions is good. More variety is good. More choice is good. So it does appear, to me, at least when we're talking short releases, things like that, the Games Workshop are listening to the hobbyists in that kind of way. It adds to the roster of factions in a unique way and gives another spin on the humanoid shape, i.e. squats. You know, we now have humans, elves, and dwarves in 40k, and that's great to see. It is. And by the way, people shouting at me that, because multiple people doing it, saying, oh, they're just releasing more Imperium stuff. Squats aren't Imperium. I cannot stress that enough. If you know anything about the lore of the Imperium, you'll be able to take one look at a squat and think, yes, that is a mutant and I'm going to kill it, right? They're not humans. They are an abhorrent, in terms of the Imperium, they are an abhorrent offshoot of humanity, right? They shouldn't exist. They're an entirely different race and species. So, you know, and if you go on the proviso that all humans are created by the Old Ones, just like the Eldar are, then the Eldar are just an offshoot of the same thing that created humanity, right? You know, the Eldar were there, and then offshoot, here comes humanity. So, but you wouldn't say Eldar and humans are the same race. The same thing goes for the squats, right? They're not the same race. They're not the same faction, not the same anything. All right. Yes, they do ally every now and again, but they're fighting. Even they said in their press release, these guys fight the Imperium just as much as they fight with it, just like the Eldar. So I don't want to see any more. More Imperium models. Whinge. No, they're not Imperium models. I'm sorry. They are squats. They have nothing to do with the Imperium. They don't like the Imperium. They're on their own. They're their own separate thing. They may even live on human worlds like Necromunda, but they are their own separate thing, right? Okay, cool. Moving on. So, in terms of new models coming into the hobby, we have recently seen Sisters of Battle making a huge return with a fantastic set of kits that are still fairly pricey, and I will get into that in a minute. But finally, long neglected armies are seeing a lot of love. Even Tyranids, whose model line is, 15, 20, maybe even 25 years old now, they're extremely old in terms of their models, but they are receiving new rules that make them very competitive. But again, no new models, which is a shame. But it does seem like Games Workshop are drip feeding. exactly what you've been asking for, bit by bit by bit by bit, as we go on throughout the year, as we go on throughout 9th edition. And I'm seriously thinking that Games Workshop are putting the foundation blocks in place for a successful launch of 10th edition. And as far as I think 10th edition will be an edition that is here for 5, 6, 7 years. It'll finally be that edition that really stops the creep of every couple of years we release a new edition to milk the customer a little bit more. At least that's what I hope. And the signs are there that that's what's happening. That 9th edition is the last 0.5 edition, if you know what I'm saying. We've had 8th, which is a huge paradigm shift. Now we've had 8.5 as 8th went on, and now we've got 9th, which is another spin on it entirely. I think that we're nearly there. We're nearly at the point where Games Workshop have got a Warhammer 40,000 model that is at once appealing to a very large audience straight away, but also very difficult to master if you want to get really, really, really good at it. Which it's the sweet spot that you want every hobby to be in. And I've got faith that in 10th edition we'll be seeing a lot of changes that are going to be making us very, very happy for a few years to come. And I would like to have faith that Games Workshop will keep that edition around, 10th edition, because it's a nice round number, let's be honest, with the big X, big 10th edition. I would like that to be around for at least 5, 6 years as we build on the hobby on top of that, right? And then every edition after that, 11th, 12th, 13th, should be reiterations of the now really cool 10th edition, right? Things added to it, things taken away, things balanced as we go on. That's what I'm hoping will come. And I think that what they're doing right now with the model line in bringing everybody up to speed and everybody up to snuff is the reason why you're seeing older models getting such good stat lines and rules is because eventually they will have new models, but they want every single army to be at a similar power level, right? And I'll get into why that power level is a thing later on in the video. But we are seeing new models of certain factions, but we're also seeing new rules for older factions, which I think is hunky-dory. I'd step in the right direction. Brilliant. So they are listening in that way too. So, releases recently, they seem to be less Space Marine centric. We're taking Horus Heresy and putting it over there for now, right? Because Horus Heresy is all Space Marines. But we do tend to see, as we are seeing now, certain releases like Eldar, right? We're starting to get a lot more releases that are less Space Marine centric. But that's normal. If you look at every single release of a edition of Warhammer 40,000 going back over the years, the start of every edition is very heavy on new Space Marine models, right? There is a push to get Space Marines right out in front of the new customers and say, look, here they are. Here are the poster boys. Here is the most balanced, quote-unquote, army in Warhammer 40,000. The most middling army in Warhammer 40,000. They're good at everything, but they're not amazing at anything, right? The one thing I love about Space Marines, and I've said it before, is that whilst they are good at everything, they're a good 7 out of 10 at everything. If you really specialise your Space Marine army, you can make it a 9 or even a 10 at something, like close combat or shooting, right? You can, if you really put in the effort, as you get better at the hobby, you can really make your Space Marine army specialised at one thing, like other armies are, which I think is great. So, that's the reason why, in each and every single one of our editions, Space Marines are front and centre. They are the foundational work of the hobby. Well, that new hobbyist get involved in when they first start. Okay, let me just swizzle around my chair here. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I needed to swizzle around my chair, get myself a bit more comfortable. So, we're starting to see that ebb away, though. As the edition goes on, we will start seeing more Necron releases, more Tyranid releases, more Eldar releases, more Dark Eldar releases. You will start seeing other factions getting a bit more love. And that's normal. So that's the one thing I wanted to address, because a lot of people are saying, they seem to be melting away from Space Marines. Is that a sign of the future? No. When 10th comes out, they will go right back to giving you Space Marines and Space Marines and Space Marines and Space Marines for a good amount of time. Because every single new edition comes with a whole horde of new Space Marine models, because that's the army that they want new players to play with, okay? Which is why I will tell you now, when you're working with Games Workshop, you are told to guide people towards the Space Marine section, right? They're the poster boys. They're the most normal, cool-looking models on the tabletop. So you just march them over there and you show them some Space Marines. Or every single starter box set has half Space Marines in it, right? There we go. So those are the positives so far that we need to get out, right? So Squats being revealed, Space Dwarves essentially, Men of Iron being teased at, fantastic, lovely stuff. They're finally listening. Sisters of Battle being released. Tyranids getting new rules. And Necron's getting some updated rules in the future. You know, really cool new Eldar sculpts and models. Cool stuff. They're drip feeding stuff that you really like. And that's good. It shows that they are listening to what you want. Which is half of the battle, let's be honest, right? So, we're going into the first negative point I wanted to make. The prices remain unreasonable, and you know squats when they come out are going to set you back a pretty penny. Squats when they come out will be one of the priciest armies that are in the Warhammer 40,000 range. That is just how things go. Whenever they release new models, they are always the hot new thing, and they will always be priced accordingly. One thing that I have noticed that isn't quite a thing, that people tend to say it is. A lot of people tend to say that whenever Games Workshop bring out a model line, or a new faction, they tend to be woefully overpowered. I disagree. I actually think a lot of the models that come out, a lot of new models that come out, are quite fairly balanced in terms of gameplay. We do get models every now and again, i.e. the Riptide, when that came out a few years ago, that were way overpowered, right? The big set-piece units that are way overpowered. So there are exceptions to the rule, but I do not think it is as prevalent as people tend to tell you it is. Games Workshop don't really release new model sets that just blow into the entire hobby away. Let's be honest, right? The two meta armies at the moment are Custodes and Tau, both of which have relatively old model lines. You know, Custodes have been out for a long time now, like 5, 6, 7 years, right? So, you know, they're not exactly new models. Same with Tau, they're not exactly new models. These are quite old sculpts that you're going to be getting hold of, especially if you go quite Fire Warrior heavy. So, to me, I don't think that holds very much weight. I think that Games Workshop tend to bring out new model sets, and they tend to be quite well balanced for the most part. Again, exceptions to every rule before anyone jumps down my throat whinging and crying. Yes, there are exceptions, but as a whole, the one thing people tend to complain about is that Games Workshop are chasing money by making the new models really, really powerful. I don't see it. I don't see it on the large scale, right? Isolated cases, maybe. But the prices do remain unreasonable, and they're trending in the wrong direction, which means to me, Games Workshop are very good at one thing. It is business, and knowing how much they can push whales without getting any pushback. They're giving you exactly what you want, but they're holding you by the nose hairs and saying, yeah, but you'll fucking give us that money for it though, won't you? Right? You'd be a good little boy, or good little girl, and you'll go out and you'll give me your wallet. Give me your wallet. Get your fucking wallet out. That's it. Now get all the cash out. Put it on the counter. Yes, yes. Now step away. Step away. There is your one set of squats. Now fuck off. Right? That's literally what they're doing. They know you want it. They're charging you accordingly. But that's capitalism, guys. That's just how it works. Do companies take it? Is capitalism based on companies being scumbags? No. Capitalism is based on opportunity and people having a product that people want, which is fine. It's then up to the company how much of a douchebag they want to be when holding you by the balls and getting you to pay for it. And Games Workshop are on the very bad side of that scale, right? So whilst the power level may not be unreasonable, the prices definitely are when new stuff comes out. It's just a fact of life with Games Workshop. If you're getting involved in this hobby, this is the kind of thing you're going to be putting up with as you come into it. So, power creep is still a thing in editions of Warhammer 40,000, right? So that doesn't mean new models. That means editions themselves. That means entire editions themselves. As GW get used to updating the game engine, they're very much like game developers as they're on different consoles, right? So you will notice with things like Devil May Cry, which came out quite late in the PlayStation 2 cycle, a lot of these games will start to look otherworldly in terms of their quality, in terms of their jump and their reach and what they can do, compared to what was released at the start of the gaming generation. So when the PS4 first came out, you were getting games that looked nowhere near as good as Ghost of Tsushima, when that came out at the very end of the PS4's life cycle, right? The developers, they know the architecture of the hardware better. They can squeeze every single ounce of power out of the PlayStation 4 to give you games that look much better than what was released at the start of that development cycle for the console, right? Games Workshop do something very, very, very similar. They make a brand new rule set. It's brand new, and even though they made it, it's still brand new. I do this as well with things like Black Coats. I make a new rule set, and it takes you a while to get used to how the rules work, to have people play test it over years and years and years. And after you get feedback from the players, you start to build new codexes going into that can plug into this game system that are a lot more powerful than ones that were released at game release, right? In layman's terms, as GW get used to their own game engine, quote unquote, they get better at wringing out every ounce of power from an army and their rules, rather than it being a malicious need to sell models, is what I'm saying. So rather than Games Workshop doing a power creep because they want to sell you more models, I genuinely do believe that the Games Workshop power creep is based, at least for the majority of the time, is based on human beings getting used to a very complicated set of rules. So when 10th comes out, for example, the first few... in fact, I can give you an example. In 8th edition, one of the first codexes that got released was the Grey Knights one. And I was very happy because Grey Knights were quite powerful in that codex, right? 8-9 months down the line, Grey Knights are one of the worst factions in Warhammer 40,000 by a country mile. Because every single codex that came out after that was getting better and better and better and better. And I looked at the reasons for this, and I thought, well, each and every single army that's coming out with these new codexes must have new models, right? No, absolutely not. In fact, Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum, were one of the best armies in 8th edition for a good 5 or 6 months. And they had the oldest model line. Okay? Very rarely did people just pick up a new Imperial Guard army, because you knew down the road, one, they're not going to get any new models, and two, other codexes are going to catch up, or Imperial Guard are going to be nerfed. So all that Games Workshop succeeded in doing was having Imperial Guard players being very happy for 5 or 6 months. Which is not what they wanted to do. They want to have every single codex be relatively powerful to everything else. And by the end of most editions of Warhammer 40,000, that is the case. Every single army can beat every other army, for the most part, on their day. But as the 8th edition went on, Grey Knights fell further and further and further behind, because Games Workshop got more and more used to working within the parameters of their new rules, to the point that the codexes that came out much later in the cycle of the actual edition were extremely powerful, but also quite balanced in comparison to other codexes that come out in a similar time frame, right? So 9th and 10th edition will do exactly the same thing. So I don't think Games Workshop release rules for products to get you to buy newer models. I don't think that's the case at all. I think those two are quite unrelated. Games Workshop do a lot of other scummy things, which we're about to get into in a minute. But it doesn't really compute that they release rules for models to sell you more models down the road, right? It just doesn't factor out that way in terms of how much models they sell either, right? I can categorically tell you, during my time at Games Workshop, I was there for that when Guard was so overpowered. I sold no more Guard models than I would usually sell. And when we looked at the overall, trending of how these models were selling, because we can do that as managers, I'm telling you now, that graph did not go up, right? We didn't see a huge upsurge in Imperial Guard models being sold, and Astra Militarum models being sold, because their rules were really good. Because everybody deep down knows it is a natural process of a Warhammer 40,000 edition that things get more powerful over time, and eventually the things that were really overpowered will get nerfed. It's just a natural process. Like game development, it's a natural process as we go through it. So, do Games Workshop sometimes take advantage of this to sell you more models? Of course they do. They would be stupid not to. But I do not believe that they do it maliciously or thinking ahead of time. Right, we're going to release these new models, we're going to release these new rules to get the maximum amount of money for them that they can. I believe they're there to make the best game that they can do, and in doing so, the codexes get better as they learn more about their own game engine. Okay? So, next, here we go into the actual negatives. The main negative for me, in terms of Games Workshop listening to you as a customer. Online content continues to be a fucking farce. Warhammer Plus is an absolute load of nonsense, and good content creators are unable to add to the hobby. How the hell are you going to get new hobbyists with a paid subscription model right out of the gate? right? That means if I go online and I'm new to Games Workshop and I say, look, I really like this Warhammer thing. I wonder what new lore videos are coming out and what new really fun things are coming out. And I type things in. The only things I'm going to see are older videos from the time before Games Workshop started stamping down on people using their IP in their own videos and monetizing them, right? That's the long and short of it. You're no longer going to see a Brother Alpha Booster doing Games Workshop content. You're no longer really going to see Flash Kits doing Warhammer content. You're not going to see the big boys of Warhammer content doing Warhammer content. Why? Because they're using the Games Workshop IP, and Games Workshop want to have all of that stuff in-house with Warhammer Plus. Which cuts themselves off at the knees, doesn't it? Because somebody starting in the hobby, they're going to say, what, you want me to pay for a subscription service? Another one? When I've already got Netflix and Disney and fucking everything else that I've got to pay, Paramount, and all these other stupid things that I've got to pay for already? Now you want me to pay for another one just for Warhammer content? Are you kidding? Are you shitting me right now? I've just started in the hobby, and I want to be sold on the hobby. How are you going to sell me with a subscription service right out of the gate? Right out of the gate. Give us some money, and you can get involved. That's not how it should work. That's not how it should work. So in that model, they're not listening to anybody, because every single person that I've come across has decried this as a nonsense decision. Right from the summer of last year, we've been saying it. It's a nonsense decision. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be mattering in terms of the hobby. You should be grateful for getting free advertisement. That's what you should be. And Warhammer Plus should be a Twitch-only subscription service where you get top-of-the-line battle reports and things like that. You know, Henry Cavill can be on there. Whatever, right? But we do not have, you know, introductory content on the Warhammer Plus channel. We just don't. It shouldn't happen, right? So, in conclusion, are Games Workshop listening? Yes and no. Yes and no. They are giving you what you want as a consumer, but you're going to have to pay through the nose to get it. In short, they're basically acting like a responsible business. As much as I hate to say it, they have something that is worth money, and to keep their investors happy, to keep their shareholders happy, they're milking you as much as they can. But at least they're giving you what you want. Does that mean I'll stop rallying against the bullshit that I see in the hobby? No. Does that mean other people will stop rallying against it? Of course not. But are they listening? Yes. Yes. Is everything right under the sun? No. But do you think Games Workshop are listening to you? When you're in the hobby, do you feel like you're being listened to when you actually ask for things that you want in the hobby? And do you think you're being nickel and dime for those things that you simply want? Give me some answers in the comments below. If you like the channel, feel free to subscribe. Go onto the Discord, it's free. We'd like to speak to you and say hello. And, you know, Patreon's down there if you want to say hello or become a member of the channel. All that fun stuff. I love you all a long time. I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one.